Good morning, everyone. Pam Jacobson, your host of Three Things You Need to Know. Welcome, welcome. If you're joining us for the first time or joining me for the first time here today, we are in week 10 of a series I put together on how to become more resilient. So I encourage you to go back, look at the previous 9 weeks worth of shows and information, but I am going to recap things a bit today. So if you are joining for the first time, or if maybe you've seen a few of these, but you haven't gotten all 10 weeks, I'll give you a quick overview today, but I do encourage you to go back and look at the other videos that I've done. If you're interested in knowing more about me or what I do, you can learn more at my website or call me or email me. All of that information's over in the chat area. But in a nutshell, my whole career has been in healthcare, initially conventional medicine, but for the last 20 years or so, I have been focused in the area of prevention, wellness medicine. I'm board certified in functional medicine, and I work with clients all over the country, helping them to optimize their health, become more resilient, and to regain vitality and quality of life that they deserve. So if that sounds interesting, reach out. But let's get on with today. So today, I'm pausing a bit since we are at week 10, and we've got several weeks coming up that are going to be very exciting. I've got some special guests, some professionals and experts in the various areas that I've already discussed, and I can't wait to bring them to you. And so I want to make sure that we are teed up for that we're ready to take on that information, and that we are clear about how to move from being interested. Obviously, you're interested because you're here, you're spending the time to look at this. How do we take your interest and move that over to commitment? Because that's what it's going to take to actually become resilient, to actually create the foundation for resilience. And honestly, it's your responsibility to do that, right? If the COVID-19, our current health pandemic, has shown us anything, it has exposed the weaknesses in especially our healthcare system, not to mention our political system, but it has also, I think, highlighted and made very clear that it is incumbent upon each of us individually to be responsible for our own health optimization, our own resilience, right? It's COVID-19 now, guys. Once this is over, it'll just be something else, right? This is a sign of what we can expect going into the future. So now more than ever, it's really important to get it. You're responsible. You are the one that is going to need to set yourself up to be resilient to whatever physical, psychological, spiritual stressors are coming down the pike for all of us. So in the first handful of weeks, I did a lot of information sharing, and I laid out the blueprint, if you will, for resilience, right? What is it going to take? And I want you to envision it as if you were building your dream home and we're working on the foundation, right? You're not going to build a home and put the roof on first or put the carpet in. You're going to start with a very stable, sturdy foundation. It's the same way with your health and optimizing your health. That foundation has 4 keystone pillars, but they're not all necessarily in order of priority. They're not all rated the same. And the reason is because if the first 2 keystones are not seated properly and very strong, the other 2 can be very challenging to be successful with. So in order of priority, those 4 keystones are represented in health by sleep optimization, which is just a huge challenge. I mean, it's something that I know a lot about. I've looked at the science. I have personally set my life up to optimize my sleep, but it is challenging, and especially during this very stressful time that we find ourselves in, really globally, right? Politically, civilly, and from a healthcare perspective, we are in probably a historic time when it comes to the levels of physiologic and psychologic stress on us. So sleep optimization is critical, but it can be challenging. And in the coming weeks, I'm going to do a really deep dive into sleep optimization. I'm going to be interviewing a sleep researcher. I'm going to go through I'm going to bullet point steps. The idea here is to take you from information that I've been sharing over these past 9 weeks to helping you become committed to the work. So for this next several weeks, we're really going to set this up as a how-to. So now that I know all this, now that I'm excited, now that I want to be committed to doing the work to becoming resilient. I understand it's my responsibility and I really want to make this happen. How do I do it? That's what we're going to be covering in the next several weeks. So I wanted to take time today to make sure that we're ready for that and that you have successfully been able to begin to move yourself from just being interested in this information to really being committed to doing the work. So sleep optimization, can't wait to get into that in detail. Keystone number 2, and I don't really even think of it as priority in terms of 1 and 2. I think of it as like 1.1. It is just as important as sleep, but maybe slightly less important, because without sleep, guys, it's the only time the body and the mind can repair itself. So if we aren't getting that, all bets are off. So keystone number 2 is stress response management. And really what that means is, and why it's so important for us, especially now, is because it's become very clear, probably to all of us, right? We don't have control over most of the stress in our life, especially now, right? I don't have any direct control over our political environment. I don't have any direct control over our civil environment. I don't have any direct control over a health pandemic that I really didn't have anything to do with creating, but am now having to deal with the fallout from that. So if we assume that the majority of the stressors that plague us on a daily basis, physically, emotionally, spiritually, are things that are outside of our direct, immediate control, then it becomes really important that we work on what we do have control over. And that is how we, meaning our physical body, our emotional body, our energetic body, how do we respond then to the stressors that are incoming? And it almost seems on some days like it is a nonstop, constant basis, right? It's almost become a running joke that 2020 is like the year where just everything could possibly happen. And so stress response management is very different than stress elimination, right? Because I don't believe stress elimination is possible. Stress response management is a daily commitment. It's a routine. It's actual things that you do every day at certain specific times of the day that can help to temper the automated response, right? We are hardwired for survival. We have a primitive part of our brain that manages that for us. And if we do not train it properly to understand the difference between stressors today versus stressors, hundreds of years ago, then we are going to be constantly under a response as if we were in catastrophic danger at any moment, right? The nervous system today reads a work deadline or a difficult client or your dislike of the current political environment as a sign that you are in mortal physical danger, versus several hundred years ago when that may have been a reality. You walked outside your dwelling and you could be attacked by an animal, right? So it's very different, but the part of our brain that manages that hasn't changed. So it becomes extremely important then that you set yourself up with a daily routine that constantly is tempering and retraining that nervous system. So that was pillar number 2. And we've talked a lot about that. I'm going to, again, go into a deep dive in the coming weeks on what does that schedule look like? What are the tools you can use? How do you do it? I'm going to interview a couple of folks that are experts in this area to kind of help give us a better idea and shed some light, especially on the science behind stress response. Pillar number 3 is movement, right? I don't call it exercise because I think that conjures up a lot of limiting ideas. It's about movement. And in the world of functional health, it is about movement every day, right? We are intended to move our bodies daily. And I don't know about you, but I'm sitting a lot now, right? I'm in front of my computer all day. I'm talking to patients on the phone. And I find some days that after 4 or 5 hours, when my back really starts to bother me, I think, oh yeah, I should get up and move around. It's really important that you plan for movement on a daily basis, especially now when we're sitting probably more than we ever have. And pillar number 4 is fuel for the body, nutrition. All of us know that a proper diet is important, but many of us have no clue how to get that, right? And again, we are driven a lot of times by our lack of sleep and our stress to make poor dietary choices, right? When we're under extreme stress, the body is going to, or at least the brain is going to believe that it needs more carbohydrate fueling to help you run faster from the danger. and you're going to crave carbs. And I don't know about you, but if you're sitting all day and eating a bunch of carbs, that equals weight gain like crazy, which is why we see this whole COVID-19, kind of phenomenon of people gaining weight. So these are the 4 keystones of your foundation, right? So we've created a blueprint for health optimization. We have 4 categories of work that we need to do on a daily basis to make sure that we create and maintain a healthy foundation. The umbrella that surrounds all of that is support, right? And support is broken up into a few pieces. It is your most immediate support, your family, your friends, the people that you commune with on a daily basis. They need to know that this is important to you and what you're doing, and maybe even join in. But if they don't, they at least need to support that you want to take this level of responsibility in your life. And I find that if I just talk to my family and friends, I tell them what I'm doing, I share with them my plan. Oftentimes they want to participate in and help me to be successful, but at the very least, they are at least supporting that. And then there's community support, right? You don't have to reach far into the community these days to find groups of people who are like-minded. This being one of them, right? The 3 things you need to know YouTube group, or my Instagram page, or my Facebook page. These are all communities that are supporting others to be the Level 10 Health page. I'm the Chief Wellness Officer for a company called Level 10 Health. We have an amazing community support system there. So reaching out and finding communities today, mostly going to be socially online, given the social distancing, but a very important thing to have in your arsenal for helping you to, first of all, move from interest to commitment, but also to help support you along the way. And then support also using nutraceutical supplementation and treatment support. That's really where working with a professional like myself, where I can use consultation and testing to help you assess where the foundation may already be broken in some places, where function may have already declined, and we need to specifically treat those things. But the umbrella that sort of covers your foundation with protection is all of that level of support. So there we have it, is the blueprint. In the last few weeks, then I talked about, and in recapping today, how do you go then? If I have that information, if I know that I need to create the strong foundation, and I know what the 4 pillars are, and I'm looking at the support systems that I have, how do I take that information and start to move that over to the level of commitment that's going to be required for me to actually do the work? Right now, I don't want you to concern yourself so much with the work, because the next several weeks is going to be digging into that in a really deep way. Right now, I want to make sure we're ready to take in the information about what work we need to be doing, because by being committed. So today is about, how do we move from interest to commitment? Well, I talked about it a few weeks ago. I covered the 2 key areas for moving from interest to commitment. The most important being having a strong why. If I am not clear about why I'm interested and why I want to optimize my health and why I feel like I need to be more resilient, if I'm not absolutely 100% clear about that, and that information is not strong enough to keep me engaged and keep me committed and motivated to continue down the path to do the work, then I'm not likely to be very successful in my efforts at health optimization and resilience. So if you have not already, I think you need to pause at this point. Stop now and do the exercise for creating your why statement. It was posted a couple of weeks ago. You can find it actually on Tom Ferry's website. You can find it on my Instagram page. It's a 7-step exercise. It was produced by a top-level coaching agency or coaching training company, really, in the U.S. Tom Ferry is one of the top coaches in the country for real estate agents, and I am the Chief Wellness Officer for their health part of their company. He posted it on his website, and then I have used that and also posted it on my Instagram page and in the Healing Sanctuary's Facebook page. So it's easy to find it. If you have trouble, just reach out. If you've got a question here, let me know. But you've got all my contact information. So if you can't find it, let me know. But essentially, I want you to pause. Now is the time to do your why statement. It's a fun exercise to do. It is extremely eye-opening. It has you dig really deep, but by the time you're done with that, you will have a really clear understanding of what is driving you to be interested and what will help you to become committed. Once you have your why statement, it's important to really make it front and center. It should be on the mirror in your bathroom, in your car, on your desk, on your refrigerator, every place that you are all of the time, to constantly remind you of why it's important for you. Why do you want to be resilient? Why do you want health optimization? So that's really, I think, step number one. Once you've got that down, then the second most important aspect of moving from interested information to committed to the work is prep and plan. And this is kind of where it can fall apart for a lot of people, because prep and planning takes time, right? And many of us, especially now, I thought, well, I'll be working at home, and so I should have more control over my schedule and more time. I don't feel that way, and practically no one I've spoken to feels that way. In fact, most people say, I feel like I have less time now. I feel busier than I ever have. And it's a challenge. And I agree with that. I feel the same way. So if I am not committed to my prep and plan, then I am going to really struggle with any level of success at optimizing my health. That has become extremely clear. So I went into a lot of detail on the week that I talked about prep and plan. So go back and really review that video. But it's important that you understand prep and plan has to be part of the process of moving you from interest to commitment. If you are not going to prep and plan, if you're not going to make the time to do that, it's going to be very challenging for you to ever have any level of success at optimizing your health. So the key takeaways today, guys, are go back and revisit the why video that I did and do the exercise. I would say I would not have you advance to any of the shows past this until you've done that, because those programs coming up are going to be about the work that you do. They're going to be very specific. I'm going to have experts there. It's going to be very interesting information, but you need to be ready to commit to the work that it's going to take to get you to your health optimization goals. So I want you to pause now and really focus on moving you from the information to the commitment level. And that starts with having a strong why and figuring out how you're going to prep and plan. When, what day of the week, how are you going to do it? Are you going to involve your family? What calendaring system are you going to use, right? I gave you very specific steps for how to set yourself up to prep and plan. And then track and measure, right? So last week I gave you tools and ideas, but it's important that you be set up with that already before you start on your path to doing the work, because how are you going to know if the work that you're doing is netting the results, right? You will feel better, so you will physically notice it, but tracking and measuring is critically important. And so understanding that, and lining up the tools so that you're really ready to go. The idea here is that I've done my why. I know how I'm going to prep and plan. I've figured out what tools I want to use to track and measure. Now I'm ready. I'm ready to understand the work that I need to do. And in the coming weeks, I'm going to be interviewing, as I said, experts and professionals in these areas that are going to help us understand the science, right? Fill in the blanks for the things I maybe haven't covered in the previous weeks on each one of these 4 keystone areas. I'm going to give you a very specific how-to bullet pointed list of here is exactly what you need to do for sleep optimization, stress response management, movement, nutrition. And then I'm going to have the experts talking about it from their perspective, giving you tips and tricks and hacks and other kinds of tools, talking about their own personal experiences. And as I said, filling in the blanks on any kind of science that's been missed. So it's going to be an exciting, fast-paced next several weeks. So please take this next week to get yourself ready for that, to get yourself committed, get your why statement done. If it would be helpful to you, if you want me to look at it, make comments on it, I'm happy to do that offline. If you want to share it for the group, I think it's an amazing process. It's life-changing in a lot of ways, and I'm really kind of a fun thing to do. So get your why statement done, figure out your system for prep and plan, and involve your family, get their commitment to supporting you. And and really look into the tools. There's tons of tools out there, guys, that can be helpful, apps and computer programs and journals, and all kinds of things, right? Tools. I've talked about them in a couple of the shows, so be sure to go back and listen. So I'm super excited about the weeks that are coming up. I hope that you all go back and re-review what we've already covered. Make yourself very familiar, but most importantly, take this next week to move yourself from interest in optimizing your health and becoming resilient to being committed to that process. I look forward to being here with you all next week. Please reach out, give me some feedback, any questions. I'm happy to help. You've got my information here in the chat area. Take care, everyone. Have a great week.